You are listening to audio from University Baptist Church in Beaver Creek, Ohio. Our mission is to make wholehearted followers of Christ who know him and make him known. Please enjoy this podcast and visit us at ubcbeavercreek.com for more information.
Hey, Bryson here. Just want to, right at the beginning of this episode, before we dig into content, to give you a specific invite to Sharpen Men's Conference 2025. It is on March 28th and 29th. So you can register right now. Go to ubcbeavercreek.com/events, and it'll be on the events page. The link will also be in the podcast notes, so you can take a look there. But we want to ask you to register. It's a Friday night and a Saturday. This is a really impactful time for us to engage in men's ministry, sharpening one another, and encouraging one another in our capacity to lead in our homes, in the church, and in society. So I hope that you have that date on your calendar and that you come and participate. Invite some other men who could come. Please register today. We hope that this podcast is encouragement to you and a challenge to you as well, and it'll help you grow. Thank you so much. We hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome in to UBC Talking Points. Our purpose is to make wholehearted followers of Jesus Christ who know him and make him known through ministry and theology conversations. I am your host, Bryson Jackson, and today I am joined by my dude once again. Jeremy is here, and we are about to light this place up. What is up, my guy?
What's up, my friend? Good to be here, man.
Welcome back. And we're excited.
This is a great podcast, bro. I love this thing.
Hey.
This is good stuff.
Well, you're contributing. So
right on.
There are many contributors, though, around our church that have a lot to say. And so, honestly, when we were first talking about this, it was one of those things where it's like, there are so many things that we want to talk about that you just can't get in on Sunday mornings when everyone's gathered.
It's so true. Yes.
So how can we find creative ways to get information into the hands of our people in our church and even beyond for those that are interested in hearing more what's going on? But yeah, that's a little bit of the heart behind it. So it's good. I like it. I know you like it.
All about it. Love the podcast, man. It's good.
Good stuff. All right. Well, Jeremy, we had a conversation a while back about church planting. One of the things that we didn't talk about when we were talking about the planting stuff is your role in our church, specifically related to men's ministry. So when you stepped in just as a member, you and I started talking immediately about how can we engage the men of our church. And I remember pretty early on just being like, Jeremy, like, do you just want to be men's ministry team lead? And you're like, okay, sure.
Yeah, no, I remember that conversation, and it's been good. The men of this church I love how we are led by our pastor elders, and seeing men come to a place of service and leadership has been great to see. So encouraging. Yeah,
so obviously that's a volunteer role here for you, but something that I know that I personally am very grateful for your work among the men of our church, and I know that the men and others are as well. I'm sure their wives are as well, honestly. So, but along those lines, let's talk about this. What is the manliest thing you have ever done? And I guess, obviously, that enters into a whole conversation about what is manliness, right? So I don't know if you want to launch into any of that, but let's just say either spiritually or physically or both.
Okay, yeah, man. Manliness, that's a whole can of worms to open up.
Yes.
I'm not sure I want to go there exactly, but to get more to the question, physically, what's the manliest thing I've ever done? I guess I'll say a couple of years back, I did what's called a century ride. That is, I rode 100 miles on my road bike, and I went with a guy that did an Ironman. That's more manly. He's also a member here, did an Ironman, and so just did the 100-mile bike ride, though, with him, and got that done in just under 5 hours, which I was glad to do. So that was pretty cool.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, I thought so.
That's pretty manly.
Yeah.
Great job.
Sure. We'll take that. And spiritually, I just say I'd come back to, 22 years of marriage now to Rachel, and I've got an 18-year-old daughter and 15-year-old son. I'm seeking to love my wife as I am able to by God's grace, and to raise my kids in the discipline and the instruction of the Lord. And it's not always easy, but it is so rewarding. And that's what I want to keep going after as a man.
That is pretty manly.
I'll take it, bro.
Leading and loving your family.
Yes.
Imagine
Yes.
that. That's good. So let's let that kind of be a nice segue into our conversation specifically related to men's ministry. So we want to kind of have a conversation about biblical manhood as a whole, and then into some of the specifics related to even how we think through men's ministry as a church. So let's start here. At Sharpen, we had our men's conference last spring, but at Sharpen 2024, men's breakfast and other spaces, I've heard you use this definition of biblical manhood. And I quote, "Men need to be strengthened by God to assume the mantle of fitting authority and sacrificial responsibility to lead, love, protect, and provide in the home, the church, and society." So I've heard you use that as a definition. So if anyone listening can quote that back to us at some point, maybe I'll have some kind of prize for you.
There you go. That'd be amazing.
But Jeremy, can you break that down a little? Discuss with me for a few minutes these different terms, why they matter, what we're thinking through here.
Yeah, it's a little long, little wordy, and you could just say like the idea of manhood is lead, love, protect, and provide, and think of that in the home, church, and society. That's a simple way to say it. And I guess I'm trying to say it that way specifically because there's so many false ideas of what manhood is out there. They call it the manosphere, which is this area on the web you can go to and find all these websites, all these blogs, all these spaces where men are talking, and they're led by people like Andrew Tate and Jocko Willink and Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson and all these well-known names, and young men especially are following these guys in droves, watching their YouTube shorts and following them on social media, listening to their podcasts, and they're highly influenced by them to think of manhood in a certain kind of a way, which is most times, I'm going to execute and accomplish. I'm going to make a lot of money. I'm going to, in some cases, like demean women and be domineering. And I think there needs to be a biblical framework for, hey, young men, older men, here's what it means to be a man as God would define it. So that's the idea behind that.
Yeah, just hang on a second.
Yeah.
As you've identified some of these very prevalent and present voices in our culture right now, why? Why do you think that that's so appealing? Why is that something that men are gravitating to and allowing to influence them? And where is that coming from?
So it won't be very popular to say this, but there's so many studies I could show this that I see again and again. Men are floundering in our society. And some may say like, well, no, they're not the bad off ones. This group is, or that group is. And stats are showing in rapid succession, suicide rates are going for men, education, they're falling behind, societally, they're falling behind, in the home, they're abandoning wife and children. There's all these bad markers in terms of what's going on there. Men want a vision and men want a path for their life. And they're hungry. And I think sometimes, not always, but sometimes the church does not provide that as we could. They're going to then look elsewhere. And it's so accessible, Bryson. They can go to YouTube, they can go to podcasts and get so much content in terms of, oh, that's what it means to be a man. Even down to, I've had young men talk to me and say, yeah, I really wasn't taught by my dad or anyone else like how to ask a girl on a date. So I YouTubed it.
Right.
I'm thinking, are you serious?
Yeah.
And that breaks my heart in a way to say, if there's no father there, that's the job of the local church. That older men would come alongside younger men. This is Titus 2, 2 Timothy 2, and would seek to train them, yes, in Bible things, but also life things. So men want to know their Bibles and how to like follow the Lord, but they also need to know how to live life.
Yeah.
I think these people out there in those spaces provide that.
In the digital age, the way in which we discern and gather information is I'll just find some voice or how-to video.
I'll cobble together some philosophy from these various voices to say, yeah, that's man. There I go. There's manhood. And we want to say to our men here and elsewhere, let's go to the Bible.
That's right.
And see what the Bible says about this and give a vision for that that's clear and that is also, Bryson, compelling. Men want to be compelled to live on a mission. And people may wonder why are so many men playing video games, spending so much time online doing video games? And the bottom line is, I think, there's some level of mission to accomplish that every man was made for. And the church isn't always providing that pathway to be on mission in compelling ways. And so we need to provide that. So going back to this definition, we as men need to be strengthened by God. This is just John 15:5. Apart from him, I can do nothing. We should serve in the strength that God supplies. 1 Peter 4, verse 12. So we want to be strengthened by God to assume this mantle. It's like Elijah, Elisha. The mantle's being passed to us to put on our shoulders of fitting authority and sacrificial responsibility. So you read Genesis 1 and 2, and you see Adam is placed in the garden. He's told to work and keep the garden, Genesis 2:15. So he's working, he's laboring. And then he's brought a woman to be his wife, Eve, and she is to be a helper fit for him. So already in Genesis 1 and 2, prior to the fall, you see this man in the garden working. So he's laboring, and he's going to now lead this wife who is his helper, going to love her well, and then protect this place that he's in and provide by laboring. So that's where the lead, love, protect, and provide comes from. That's caught up as well later on as you see Jesus leads sacrificially, as we should. We provide in our home. We're called to love our wives as Christ loved the church. We're called to raise up our kids in a certain kind of a way biblically. We're going to love them well. We're going to protect and provide for them, because that's part of leading and loving, is protecting them, caring for them physically, yes, and spiritually, and then providing for their needs in those ways as well.
So authority in the sense of leading those that are in your care. And so that could be those in your home or others in your sphere of influence. So to be able to lead them in a way that is loving and caring and protective towards Christ, right? And
yes,
towards their flourishing.
Yep, that's right. So leadership, I love to say, try to say this simply, is taking initiative to influence God's people toward God's purposes by God's power. So I'm taking initiative, which a favorite word for leadership initiative is the word let's. L-E-T''S.
Let's do this.
Exactly. But that's initiative, Bryson. It's saying, hey, let's read the Bible together. Let's go on vacation here in this place. Let's go out for dinner and discuss these issues. Let's pray together before dinner. Whatever it is, that's initiative.
Taking initiative in specific spiritual leadership ways.
Exactly. Awesome. So you're taking initiative to influence spiritually God's people, wife, children, coworkers, neighbors, church members, etc., toward God's purposes by God's power. Okay. That's the essence of leadership.
So you would say, based upon that definition, that they're obviously, like, we would encourage people to grow in their knowledge of the Word of God.
Yes.
But it doesn't take a Bible scholar to say, let's pray together.
Yeah.
Or let's, go do this or let's study this out. Like, you could be a fresh believer to take leadership in those spaces.
Yes.
Would you agree?
Totally agree. And across the board here, to think about this, so many men, I think, are paralyzed. They think, number one, it feels like my wife is more spiritually mature than me. Therefore, how can I lead her? There's that level. When I say there, okay, that being the case, brother, let's grow. Let's take advantage of means in our church and elsewhere to grow in your faith. And then to say, well, could you, if I bought you this book, New Morning Mercies by Paul Tripp, for example, it has a one-page devotional for every day of the year. Do you think that you could read that with your wife in the morning or the evenings each day? Yeah, I do that. Do you think that based on that devotional, and there's some Bible at the bottom you can look up as well, you could pray for 1 minute with your wife about various issues that devotional raised? I think so. Okay, let's start there. I think so often we're paralyzed by it. Feels like it's all or nothing. Like, okay, I can't do it, or I must be a Bible scholar, like you said.
Yeah, well, no. I got to know the answers.
Yeah, I want to lead you in terms of like where I am and help you to know and to apply God's word. And I'm constantly growing in these things.
Right. Because leadership is not being an expert.
Yeah.
Leadership is not, you don't have to know everything in order to lead people in a certain direction.
No, you need to be convinced of it yourself and be in a certain place. You say, hey, follow me as I'm following Christ toward this end.
That's right.
You're constantly growing. They're going to grow by means of your leadership there. And just to say, there are some men who are well beyond that I would say to them, you need to step up as it relates to serving the church, serving your family. You are gifted intellectually. You have studied the Bible, and there is maybe a degree of laziness or a lack of commitment in your life that you just say, you could aspire to being a teacher here, a deacon here, an elder here, and leading people, men, in that way as well takes some intentionality.
Yeah.
It's really needful.
Yeah, and I think even the word there that you use of aspiring is really important, because you might say, well, I may or may not be ready at this time. But you know what? I can say I aspire to serve in this way or that way in our church.
Yeah, and that's, by the way, to say for our church here, we have discipleship pathways set up for just that purpose. So if we say we're in this form realm, I've joined the church as a member and I'm being formed by various means, I want to take advantage of classes and groups and just opportunities to think through how can I grow, and how can elders here at the church and other leaders see men and say, I see potential in this man. I want to help him be evaluated and coached and taught and led and helped to go to the next level in those ways. That requires our intention.
Yeah, and I think one of the things as well that's really important is to know that it's not pride to say, I aspire to serve in this way or that way.
Yeah.
I aspire to elder in the local church.
It's Bible language, right?
Right. That's beautiful, right? Yeah. That's not arrogant for you to put that forward, or to say, this is something that I want to go after. And even to be honest with people around you who you trust, who know you, and to say, what are the things in my life that would disqualify me for this? And what are the things that I need to work on, right? And to put those things forward, I think we all have to grow.
Yeah.
You know, in able to lead. And when we think about the role of men in our church and in their homes, and even just society-wise, it's like we're, as you said, the word paralyzed. I feel like so often, because we feel like we're not there, we don't take any steps or even know what the steps are sometimes, because it's like, well, I'm just not there. It's like, okay, well, that's fine. But if you want this and you feel like that's a God, Holy Spirit driven desire in you, then take steps to get there.
Yes. Take initiative to get there by the means that we're providing in these ways, and step forward into that. And I think you put your finger on something there to say, okay, I need help with this. Well, okay, now we need men who are admitting, I need help. I want to grow.
That's good.
I fall short in these areas. This is not natural for men. Men want to be leaders, respected, seen as those who have it together. It's not natural for us to say, I need help. It's hard to do that, but that's where the growth happens. So we need to have eyes up to observe men around us to say, how could I serve them to take next steps in their faith? And we need to be honest enough as men to say to one another, I need help in these areas. Will you pray for me? What opportunities can I take to grow in these things? All those things matter, and all of it takes some level of being known and exposed a little bit in our lives to be able to actually make progress.
Absolutely. So with those things in mind, then thinking about how we're deploying men to these ends in our church, what are some of the staples of men's ministry in a local church, Jeremy? What Bible text do you use to think through this for your role serving in UBC right now as our team lead? So there are so many different ideas of what men's ministry could look like in a local church.
Oh man, yeah.
So many different things that we could do that you and I have even talked about, but making sure we do a few things well. So what are some of the staples, right? What are the core values of what we want to get after?
Yeah, that's good. We can talk more about the the programs that we do, maybe later on as well, but just to mention, like the once a year men's conference, the monthly men's breakfasts, and the opportunity for men's micro groups, smaller groups meeting together to be accountable, read Bible together. Those are programmatic things that we offer at the church overall, besides our typical, growth groups and all the other things we do with classes and whatever else. But the staples in those programs we offer for men would be, this is not a shock, I don't think, the Bible.
Yep.
That's got to be central to all that we do. Prayer, central, essential to all we do. And then relationships where we're known and we can encourage each other and challenge each other. We can grow together in those ways. So Bible and prayer, relationships where we're known, and then one other staple is opportunities for growth where I can serve and be evaluated. So I won't grow without evaluation. I need to be able to have opportunities to serve in various ways where I can be observed and evaluated and helped in that way. So with that, some texts in the Bible in terms of these things, we want to see men that characterize Psalm 1 and 2. They delightfully meditate on God's word day and night, and they delightfully submit to the King, Jesus Christ. That's Psalm 1 and 2. Let's say that idea. They are men who can instruct one another. Like Colossians 3:16, let the word of Christ dwell in you richly as you teach and admonish one another with all wisdom. Want men to embrace that. To intercede for others. All throughout the Bible, this idea of praying for others, interceding for them, being key as well. One key verse as well, often quoted for men's ministry, but it's a good one, is 1 Corinthians 16:13. We want our men to be watchful, stand firm in the faith, to act like men, to be strong, and let all they do be done in love. Those are some key texts to keep in mind, I think.
Now, Jeremy, I noticed that when you're talking about staples, you didn't mention axe throwing. And I'm a little bit offended that we weren't talking about the necessity of talking about football as well. Why is there no conversation about the importance of grilling meat? Some of these, why is this not in here?
Yeah.
Come on.
It's good.
These are critical pieces of what it means to be a man, right?
Yes. Yeah. Let's say this. They're typical pieces of what it means to be a man in our society.
Oh, that's good.
I think we can. We're not anti-axe throwing.
Yeah.
Bring it on, right? So
let's lift weights together.
There you go. Yes.
Praise the Lord.
CrossFit together. Have some fun that way. Good stuff.
Jason would be proud.
There you go. Like football, like what we just mentioned there, like smoking meat. Let's do that. That's awesome.
Bless God.
We're just saying, like, around those kinds of cultural realities, man, bring biblical things to bear on them. Let's not just be normal cultural people. Let's make Bible conversations normal because we're Christian men.
Yeah.
Let's make prayer for one another normal because we're Christian men. Let's say to one another, I need help in this way. I want to help you in this way because we're Christian men. So you can do it around those activities you mentioned already. But man, we can do those things differently as Christians and bring those things around because we all need help to grow and to serve our wives well and our kids well and our grandkids well, coworkers, neighbors, whoever else. We want to be distinctively Christian. So I love to say, make those things just normal Christianity.
That's right. That's good. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in just a second.
Hey, UBC. We hope you're enjoying this episode. We want to send a reminder to all the men listening. If you want to get more involved in the men's ministry at UBC, be sure to check out ubcbeavercreek.com/men's ministry. There you can subscribe to get updates about what's happening in the men's ministry, learn more about our men's micro groups, sign up for our monthly men's breakfast, and get access to our men's ministry Bible reading plan. Again, that's ubcbeavercreek.com/men's ministry. Look for the link in the podcast notes. Now, back to the episode.
All right, we are back. So, Jeremy, as we've discussed the status of men as a whole, how to respond biblically, let's think tangibly about men's ministry here at UBC. What does it look like? What encouragement can you give to men listening right now from our church? You walked through the three main pieces already. Why don't you tease that out a little bit?
Yep. So would love to just plug our once a year men's conference comes up in a couple months here, last weekend of March 2025.
Sharpen.
Yes. Yeah. I loved it last year. We had Bryson, 150 guys,
Something like that.
come out, I think, something like that. And it was a great Friday, Saturday. So men, we will be talking more about that as the time gets nearer, but plan for that last weekend of March to come and just get edified by good content, enjoy some good food, and talk to men of this church about how to keep growing and going forward and hear opportunities to move into the regular rhythms of church life that would yield good godliness.
Check the podcast notes for that registration link. It'll be there.
There you go. Then I think the most regular rhythm we see that's really well attended is our monthly men's breakfast. So we see, I think, on average about 60 guys come to that per month, third Saturday of the month. And we worked through a variety of things over the last year and a half, 2 years. We've done that. We're doing Proverbs right now. We're going through some topics from Proverbs and talking through some very nitty-gritty wisdom for men's lives. So we have a chance to eat some great food. Shout out to Ryan and his crew. It's fantastic every time, and we enjoy that. And then we get a chance to do some worship together, some biblical teaching, and then talk around tables, some questions on the text or the topic for the day, and think through how we can grow together and keep encouraging one another toward good ends. I leave that breakfast every time so encouraged. Every time I come, I have good conversations. I'm built up. It's early. Somebody say, man, it's early in the morning. I'm just telling you, get some coffee, come. It's awesome. Seriously, it builds me up every time.
Yeah. I'm
just so helped. So I'd encourage you that way to come. And then we have begun, and this is on the website as well, men's micro groups. They can hear anywhere from like 3 to 4 or 5 men. So small groups, trying to think through reading scripture together, trying to think through prayer together, and then really accountability and even thinking through how we can just continue to help one another pursue God and godliness.
Yeah,
we just want to encourage each other toward that end. Those are the 3 main programmatic pieces we have right now in men's ministry. We're always thinking about future things, but those exist currently.
Yeah. And also just, shameless plug here. If you are wanting to get involved into some things like that, we'll put the link for getting into a microgroup in the podcast notes as well. So check that out, and you can fill out that form, and we would love to get you placed. And I think, obviously, Jeremy, when you and I were talking about these things and working through our structure, this is just kind of what we feel like works in the structure of our church currently, because there are a lot of other spaces where men are mingling together in growth groups and, even just serving in various spaces and things like that. And so to say, okay, whatever the context is, the important thing is that there are other men that you are doing life with who know who you are, and you know them. And there's some Bible and prayer that's involved in those relationships. And there's some regularity and some accountability, right? So,
perfect.
So those ideas being in place is really what we believe is necessary for men that want to grow in their faith.
Yes.
And be encouraged. And so in our church, right, we try to provide those spaces, but it's assumed that each man is responsible to make sure that those pieces are there. And so if they're not involved in some of these programmatic ideas, it's like, that's fine, but just make sure that these pieces are at play in your life.
Yes.
And that you have this.
Yep.
And if you don't, then we have these things in our church that are there for you.
Yep. That's good. There's various ministry avenues that would provide the way for men to get, like you said, involved in one another's lives and know each other and encourage one another and be accountable in those ways. So that there are a variety of pathways. These are a few as well we'd mention. And I think that it's good to recognize, I've heard it once said, this is helpful, I think, we have a men's ministry, but we also have a church that seeks to do ministry to men. Meaning the preached word ministers to men. A brother counseling another brother ministers to that man. Community groups can do that. All manner of things that we do can be of help toward that end. But you're right. The ingredients need to be there: Bible, prayer. I'm going to speak honestly and openly to you to be helped and to help you. And we're going to forge ahead in life on mission for Jesus.
Yeah.
If however you get at that, we're trying to provide pathways. If you're getting at that, like you said, gold.
Yeah. And I think to know as well that nobody's going to check up on you unless you ask.
Right.
And so like you have to initiate in some way to have those types of relationships where people are investing in you and you're investing in them. And it's crazy, in having a lot of conversations with guys in our church over the last few years, it's been interesting because I do feel like we collectively need to grow in our capacity to initiate.
Yes.
Because even just to say like, hey, like here's a brother that I connect with. Do you want to get together sometime?
Yep.
Like, just that.
Yep.
It's just that. Like, you don't have to. It doesn't have to be a program. You can just be like, hey, you want to get together and let's get in the Word. And
yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do that.
It's so true. I think sometimes people like, we should do that for me, to me. And I'm like, well, you can expect that, but why not reach out, like you're saying, and take initiative and do that in that way? You can do one-to-one Bible reading. You can sit with someone and say, hey, do you want to read like Colossians together? Love to do that and just be edified. Sure, great. This also works, by the way. I tell young men all the time, be careful of saying to an older man, hey, will you mentor me? That can really intimidate an older man.
Yes.
He may feel like, I'm inadequate for that. I can't do that, which is not true.
Right.
He has so much to offer.
And that gets back to the whole knowledge thing.
It does. Because I got to be an expert.
Yes.
And
I got to know everything in order to be able to tell anybody anything.
Yes.
It's like, that's a lie. Stop it.
You have so much to offer, brothers. So just, invest in young men in this church. And so I tell young men, hey, say to an older man, can I get lunch with you sometime? I have some questions about an aspect of my budget or my marriage or my job. And you work in that field. I'd love to hear some thoughts from you. That's much more readily received than, will you mentor me? And then come ready. Come with like questions to ask. Come with follow-up questions. Come and say, hey, would you want to do this again sometime? And just help them do their job easily. But older men, be ready to invest in that kind of a way and be helpful in that kind of way. So we would just love to see this web of interconnected relationships in this church where men can go to one another and continue to build one another up.
That's helpful. And I guess I also just want to say that's men's ministry.
Yes.
Because we're
just trying to provide pathways for that.
Right. There is something I want to combat. And it's the idea that if it's not a set up program in the church, then it's not a ministry.
Yes.
Stop it. Right?
Yes.
No. Like the goal is that men would be pouring into one another.
Yep.
That there would be all of these ingredients that we talked about. You don't have to be at the church.
Yeah, right.
You don't have to have a staff member
overseeing
Tuesday
that. Or a Friday,
right?
right?
You don't have to follow the set program of the way that this works. Just do it.
Yep.
Right? Like, let's call it the Nike men's ministry of like, just get in there, do it, and get into each other's lives. Don't wait for somebody to give you the green light. You have it.
Well, and I'll just say quickly as well, that's where our present elders are helped by looking to brothers who are doing just that to say, that could be a potential elder.
Right.
Deacon.
Yeah.
Ministry leader. This is where they're found. And they're hard to find sometimes because they're doing work off to the side behind the scenes and not trying to be all loud about it. Those are the kinds of men we're saying, oh, God's working through them and in them in a certain way, want to call them up.
Right. But you're right there, coming back to our earlier conversation. If you would be somebody who would say, I aspire to serve as an elder in our church, then you need to be a faithful steward, not only of the discipleship opportunities in your home, but discipleship opportunities with other men in our church. If you do not know how to disciple another guy, or you do not know how to lead a small group, you are probably not going to be able to shepherd and lead within the greater local church context.
Yes. So I've heard someone once say, elder before you elder.
Exactly, right? Shepherd one person so that you can shepherd larger groups of people.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So that's a key thing to keep in mind, I think, for finding those men, but just pursue that simply, brothers, and just be about that and be faithful and let God do the work that he does.
Last piece here. I've heard this a number of times. What would you say to a man in our church who struggles to have deep friendships with other men? So, I'm an extrovert. I think you have some extroverted tendencies. And so when we're talking about initiating, I know that there would probably be a number of guys that if they were honest, they would say, hey, I really struggle with initiation. I don't really connect with other guys very well. I don't know how to interact. What are some encouragements that you could give to guys that would find themselves in that place?
Yeah. So I would say with things that are already available, take advantage of them. So come to a men's breakfast, and it's pretty easy to sit at a table, eat some breakfast, and meet some guys that way. It is a pretty straightforward path we wear name tags to make it simple and to not have to guess at names. And it's a pretty low-key environment that's there. I'd say one of probably the easiest ways for men to relate to one another is find a way that you can serve. Maybe it's parking lot ministry. Maybe it's you want to greet. Maybe you're going to help out in Awana or help in U Kids, or you're going to help to set up and tear down chairs each week when we have services and all this ministry going on. As other men serve alongside of you and you're working, you get to meet them and talk and you get to share about life a little bit. So that's a pathway as well that I think is easy. I'd encourage guys as well, for Sunday services, come early and stay after. That sounds really simple, I know, but come early to be able to talk to people before the service starts. Just go over and have, and I'm an introvert, I don't really do that too well. Well, people here are pretty friendly, and you have a chance to be able to talk to someone, probably, even if it's getting coffee in the morning, talk to that person behind the counter, or the greeter at the door, or whatever else. The sound booth people, whatever. Just talk to someone and say, hey, good morning, how are you? And reach out in that way. Stay after and just say, oh, I know that guy I met at men's breakfast, and just reconnect. Yeah. Hey, how are you? Saw you over here, just wanted to say hey. And just the already placed opportunities that are there for you. I think men are starved for this. And for some, it is harder to reach out, but I just say, just take that risk relationally. And I think God's going to honor that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the commendation to try to build relationships in some space is really the key.
Yep.
And maybe you would say, I'm not very good with words. I don't really like to talk. Well, then just do with some other guys.
Right. Exactly. Start there.
Yeah. Like there are places and spaces where you can just do with other believers. Get involved in some mercy ministries here.
Yep.
Talk to Jim Corbin about, spaces where you can serve practically at, some local food pantries and mission organizations. Here
One Bistro, we're doing work there.
Yeah.
Right? All kinds of things.
And it's just like, man, don't sit on the sideline and just keep saying, oh, I'm just not good at building friendships. I'm just not good at building relationships, or I'm too busy. And it's just like, listen, you find time for the things that you prioritize and that you know are important.
Yep.
And
so true.
And so if we know that this is important for our flourishing, for our capacity to grow as men, then we will prioritize it. We will make time for it. And we will find the space where we can grow in this way. And I just want to encourage guys, it's probably been over a year now. There were no microgroups yet. And I just kind of I met with a group of guys that I just had met at our church on Sunday morning and in some different spaces. And I saw them kind of around, and I reached out to a number of different guys and just was like, hey, you want to get together Saturday morning and let's get in the Word. And so every Saturday morning that's not a men's breakfast, we get in the Word. And it's funny because we've talked about it now because they're all like, oh, well, Bryson, you must have had a plan. I was like, nah, I really didn't. It was just...
Keep it simple.
Yeah, I just saw you guys kind of around, and I thought we had a good connection, and I was like, hey, why don't you want to get in the Word on Saturday morning? And
that's normal Christianity.
Yeah, and now
that's normal Christianity right there.
Now, yes. all those guys are all friends, which is awesome. And one brother, told me it was really, really awesome. He told me he was like meeting with you guys was the real turning point in me getting more involved in our church. I had really been disconnected until Bryson, you and I had that conversation, and then you invited me to come, and I really didn't know anybody. And so that was really an encouragement to me that we need to be doing that. And, how can we do that with the future guys that are like him? Because there are others in our church still who have not connected, who, I can't do that for everybody. It takes all of us.
Yes.
And so, I know I can do that with a couple guys. You can do that with a couple guys.
Yep.
Right. But it takes a culture of men reaching other men and leading and connecting and growing together to those ends.
Yep. Totally agree. And I would just say, brothers, step into that and embrace it. It is so good and so needful for the men in this church.
Yeah, absolutely. And even just to say to men, right? We want to be God-centered. We want to be Bible-saturated in all that we do. Spirit-filled men who love their wives, their family, even for single guys to love the people around you well, to raise children and to serve the church and engage the world.
There it is. That's it, brother.
These are the
right
steps.
There.
So, all right. Well, we will wrap it up there. And I think that's a fitting way to close it out. But thanks for being on. Good discussion. As always, excited to see how the Lord grows our church and continues to work through our men. I hope that this was helpful for you, our listener, and that you consider how the Lord might use you to make him known in your home, your community, and the world. We'll see you next time on another episode of Talking Points.